Good afternoon, everybody. So this is about Dynamo. So Dynamo is a computational design for building information modeling. We like to think of Revit and Dynamo as being partners in developing the next generation of tools for architects and engineers. So in a nutshell, basically, Dynamo is a powerful BIM tool for computational design and visual programming, and it has access to the Revit and FormIt application programming interface. That's the language that programmers use to write the software and access its functions. So because it has that access, it can do a lot more than just the menu that you are used to inside of Revit. Dynamo is a necessary step towards the future of building things. You may have heard Autodesk is talking a lot these days in social media about the future of building things, future of making things, and things are going to change because buildings are no longer being built on site as much as they used to in the past. They're being assembled, prefabricated, and then shipped to the site and assembled. So that modular design lends itself to the tools like the Dynamo. So Dynamo, this webinar is for the non-programmer getting started guide for AEC professionals. So if you are a programmer, if you have used programming in the past, this may be too basic for you, but stick around. There's a lot of things that I'd like to share with you on the latest Dynamo features. All right, so a couple of resources here for you. You have a good start would be dynamobim.org. This is where you go and get started with downloading the Dynamo software. But just be aware that there is two flavors of Dynamo. There's one that comes already with Revit 2017 and 2018, which was just released just a couple of days ago. And there's Dynamo Primer. It contains some other resources, including some tutorials, and of course Dynamo for Revit, which comes with Revit and is part of the Revit menu. You'll find the Dynamo add-in in the Manage menu, not in the add-ins menu in Revit. So we talked about visual programming. What is visual programming? So basically, when it comes to design, as architects, we frequently involve visual, systematic, or geometric relationships between different design features. More times than not, these relationships are developed by rule-based workflows. I'm sure you've dealt with that in the past, where you kind of have to set up certain rules, whether to meet certain design requirements, design intents, or code requirements. So the algorithms or the step-by-step problem-solving sets of instructions that follow a basic logic of input, process, and output, this is what we refer to as visual programming. It's visual because it involves geometry and shapes. So programming allows us to develop our design challenges by formalizing our design methodology. So if you were to define Dynamo, it's kind of a very vast realm, if you will, that allows you to do anything you want. It's quite literally what you make it. So it's not just made, some people say Dynamo is for making my sheet names uppercase, lowercase, or Dynamo is a tool that exports to Excel, or Dynamo is a tool to create these fancy geometric conceptual tools. Well, it's all the above. It's everything that we just mentioned and much more than that. So working with Dynamo may include using the application either in connection with other Autodesk software or not. Dynamo is a visual programming tool that is accessible to both programmers and non-programmers alike. If you are a programmer, then you may use some of the other advanced features of Dynamo, but if you're not, they can still use it for some of the things that you do on a daily basis that have repetitive nature. So it gives users the ability to visually sketch parametric behavior, define custom elements of logic, and script them using various programming languages. As I said before, there's two flavors of Dynamo. It's like ice cream. You have chocolate and strawberry. So Dynamo on the left comes with Revit 2017 and 18 in the Manage menu. And a Dynamo on the right is a standalone application that can be used with any other application that is in the AEC industry. So The one on the left, of course, because it comes with Dynamo, it's free, and the other one has a minimal fee to it. So when it comes to the user interface, I am going to be doing a couple of live demos at the end, just very light demos, nothing fancy, just to get you familiar with what's going on with Dynamo. But for now, let's just go over the interface. So basically, it has a menu from the far left to the far right. It has the menu structure, the toolbars, the library, and workspace, and execution bar. The execution bar either set to automatic or manual. So you can tell Dynamo, execute my commands, or wait until I'm done. I need to do a little bit more work. Then we have the tools below that are the new, open, save, undo, redo, and export. So nothing fancy there, of course. Then you have the search, the library and the search boxes. In the library, you have the analyze, built-in functions, chord, geometry, migration office, and operators. So there are tools that analyze your model, tools that have built-in functions. There's the core tools that are part and parcel of the Dynamo engine. The geometry is more, towards, basic 3D primitives, for example. And of course, the last but not least is Revit, that is not highlighted on the screen, and that's the, it has access to the direct Revit geometry. On the far right, we have the search fields. You can search by just simple plain English words. If you're looking for a circle, you can search by circle or rectangle or whatever it is that you are used to in terms of geometry. And it gives you a list of what are the Dynamo nodes, if you will. These are called nodes. That if you were to activate them, they would create a circle for you. But the circle can be either by, point, radius, or some other ways you can create the circle. So how is BIM changing the building design industry in general, and where does Dynamo fit in this big picture? Well, let's talk about the big picture first before we dive into the details. So we have conceptual design is one big powerful driver for this. Connected design, where you have the manufacturing and the AEC are talking to each other, where you want to go from the macro scale to the micro scale in design and look at the facade of the building, for example, and then zoom out and look at the big building and see the performance. Ubiquitous simulation has to do with having analysis available to you at all times while you're designing. You don't want to wait until the end of design to run the simulation and analysis. Of course, you have the project teams all over the world. We outsource work to different parts of the world, in India and China and South America and other places, and we need to be connected with various tools. Prefabrication is, as I said before, is a top driver for this because it has to do with how we assemble buildings on site. So I'm going to go forward now. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos that basically apologize for that describe a process of how Dynamo works. So essentially, I apologize, this thing is slipping from me. Okay. So so this is like a specific type of workflow that has to do with conceptual design. We're here talking about an urban project in context, and we are using these sliders to change parametrically what this geometry is doing in order to achieve a maximized result. So it is a study of the curtain system, a study of the structure, using nodes. Every node in Dynamo has input and output and a process in between. course, with such complexity where you have the different parts of the model, different shapes, different sizes, slightly different variations, we're talking about a very large number that can be controlled only using this programming language or visual programming language. It would be very hard to do that manually. So this is a specific project that was developed by Autodesk, and it talks about a train station conceptual design through fabrication. And again, what you've noticed probably in that past video has to do with how designers are leveraging the Dynamo technology in order to work with different parts of the design that has slight variations between different components. So when you have repetition and variation, it would be better for the computer to take over and compute those slight differences as opposed to having a person babysit all that. So other applications in construction, for example, the crane lift range and capacity checker, you can get the Dynamo to help you understand if the weight of these components on the job site is able to be carried by a specific crane or need something different. Alrighty. Another application for Dynamo had to do with phasing. So you got every week of construction, for example, has different phases. You have to move the crane to a different location on the site and work on a specific parts of the model. So which parts of the model can be constructed using which crane and how far can the crane reach and stuff like that. So you can color code these components based on their phase. So that's a great way to use it. Prefabrication we talked about with slight variations of shapes. So here we come to the challenges here. The challenges has to do with increasing the need to maintain early design knowledge. These are some of the challenges. The need to improve transition from concept to design, more automation tools to reduce rework, and the need for easier modeling, visualization, analysis tools. All of these challenges we believe can be met using some of the Dynamo technology. Computational design work with building information modeling applications such as Revit by applying behavior and logic to the model, adding rules via visual scripting and interface, and building a system, not just a model. So the system thinking here is very essential to working with large complex projects. But then it's not just large projects, because small projects also may have some interesting design features as well. You can extend that to other applications and then pull geometry from other applications such as Rhino and some other 3D conceptual tools. So what does that do? It helps reduce the struggle in early design phase. And you can see here on the right-hand side, you have the majority of the benefit is perceived by the designers to enhance their capabilities to design complex projects. So here are some of the key values and benefits, including parametric design, analysis, visualization, and effectively working, allowing project teams to work together on complex geometry. So again, to summarize, we are going to leverage Dynamo to rapidly test, iterate, and study multiple design options in less time, solve complex geometry problems, and no programming experience is needed, which is really a big plus here. Automate repetitive tasks for precision and speed, and manage risk by exposing trade-offs and understanding systems connections at the conceptual phase. And last but not least is to generate designs from simple data, logic, and analysis. Alrighty, I'm going to also, the same project you saw earlier, I will mention, I will go over conceptually how that was put together. So essentially, you know, most architects, engineers maybe start with a little sketch on a napkin, paper, and then define different levels in the building, level 1, level 2, the roof level. What's the primary structure? What is the secondary structure? And what are the controlling points in that structure? So this could be a good template, if you will, to turn this over to the Dynamo interface and then start creating rectangles and a slider rule to create a relationship between the rectangle length and width and shape, and then layer other rectangles on top of it and being able to adjust the height between the two rectangles. So what you see here are the user is using a node or a bunch of nodes that are visually controlled to achieve an optimal design for the length, width, and height. This could be something that's done either with just a skeletal geometry, just a wireframe, or with the actual components. So the units you see on the screen are basically generic units. It's not feet or inches, but when they translate into Revit, then they become feet and inches. We can see here that the designer is trying to control the aperture for those curtain panels and understand how much glazing is there in those panels. So that's basically what the process involves. So I'm going to touch a little bit on the project lifecycle of the project in regards to Dynamo, all the way from left to right in concept design. You know, architects, engineers, you leverage Dynamo, for example, for stadiums, for daylight analysis, for programming analysis, and I'll be showing later on a quick example of using it just simply to develop BIM standards in your own template, such as sheet names and view names, but also can be used by generative design and other uses down the road. In the design phase, architects and engineers work with sheet management and content management, detailing, and that would be the preface to fabrication, where the curtain walls are the most demanding on that because of their complexity. And then taking that all the way to pre-construction, quantity takeoffs, schedulers, estimators. They probably would want to create these modular fab units, ship them to the site, and assemble them on site. That process and managing that process can be done through Dynamo because it's a complex issue. And it doesn't end here. It goes all the way to facility management, operations and maintenance, to study the space, the retail layout, and the drive-through simulation of the end users around the building. Okay, so what's in it for me? As for architects, it's better design, study design options, communicate better with clients, understanding energy design challenges, and based on rules, design more freely and extend the power of Revit. For engineers, it's a better problem solver tool than other available tools out there. You can study also design options, rationalize the system, and work with the building as a system, systems of structure, systems of MEP, ductwork, pipe work, and of course being able to exchange data with the Excel spreadsheets and manage risks, and being able to you know, fast track the project. For construction professionals, it's understanding the systems and connections, understanding the time frame for construction and means and methods of construction, as well as system rationalization and prefabrication. All right, so here the latest version of Dynamo, versions of Dynamo for that matter, because there's way more than one version. There is almost a version every day, but then there's the Dynamo website will let you know which of those versions is more stable than others. So just make sure, just don't download any version. Just look for the more stable versions. So as I said before, the Dynamo player, which is the interface that is meant for the end user. So the end user doesn't see the programming part of it, neither the scripting nor the visual programming. They only see the player. All they have to do is look for which Dynamo graph they want to execute and press on the play button, and it goes, there it goes. A good example for that would be to turn, for example, spaces and rooms into solids to study the massing study inside of the project. Using, I'll just go over these. These are a few of the graphs I created earlier. Taking data from Excel into Revit and back from Revit to Excel, that would be one of the functions of Dynamo. Converting sheet names and view names to uppercase, for example. That's a very well-known thing that nobody remembers until the end of the project. If you have 200 sheets, it would be very difficult for you to change them to uppercase, rename every single one of them. Dynamo can do that in one click. And when it comes to adaptive components, such as the ones you see on the left-hand side here, anytime you get creative with the design and you want to create something that is unusual, such as these curved beams and beam systems, then Dynamo can help with that as well, to convert adaptive components into structural framing. So let's summarize some of the benefits and key uses of Dynamo, and then we can switch after that to a quick live demo of Dynamo. So some of the key uses are automating repetitive tasks, rule-based virtual design and construction, creating complex geometry, information exchange, exchanging data between Revit and Excel, for example, model-based analysis and simulation, and performance validation. So these are, if you're wondering what should I use Dynamo for on my next project, these will be the key uses for it. So if there's anything here that you see on the list that you like, or you want to try it out, give us a call or just email us and we'll help you. So there are some discipline-specific solutions, whether it's structural or construction or MEP, that require a solution for complex design challenges. So for architects, it's solving complex design challenges, that's such as the one you see on the right-hand side. Just doing that manually is not going to be very, very pleasant experience. It just takes way too much effort to be able to produce such a design manually. You want it to be driven by rules as much as possible. Prefabrication and means and methods for construction professionals, and process automation for also for construction professionals, and anytime you're dealing with certain type of buildings that require process automation. So these are the top key benefits and solutions that Dynamo can solve. Let's talk about Project Fractal, and we'll do the live demo in a second. So Fractal is one module in Dynamo, which we call a package, that you can simply download and use to generate many different alternatives using different parameters. For example, if you have a louver on a building that is very complex and there's way too many variables, and you just can't decide which louver size or louver angle you want, you could go through right here. You can see it says here if I can find my cursor, 81 designs generated. So, you know, you could go from just a dozen design alternatives to thousands or millions of alternatives, depending on how many variations you give fractal. So I'm going to try to switch to Revit now, and I'm going to run two live demonstrations. The first would be using the Dynamo player under the Manage menu. Over here is the Dynamo command and the Dynamo player command. So from an end user standpoint, this is all they see really. And someone who is the author of the Dynamo script can simply edit any of those manually. But you know, for the end user, it's just a simple interface. I've created here some sheets for you, and there you can see there are lowercase. I'm simply going to use the convert sheet names to uppercase to convert it. So it's just simple of pressing the play button, and you should see on the left hand side. Keep your eye here, and you know, Revit will, anytime you change something, it will ask you want to change corresponding levels and views. I'm going to say no, don't do that. So you can see here that the sheet names have been changed to uppercase simply by running the script. And you may have some errors depending on the situation, because this is just you know, it is maybe looking for a value or parameter that I don't have. Anyway, so that's the changing the sheet names to uppercase inside of the Revit interface. Let me close this one down and let me switch to Project Fractal. So as I said, Dynamo has different packages that are created by different power users out there, and they post their packages on the Dynamo website that I mentioned earlier. One of them is Fractal. So Fractal, you have to sign in here with the Autodesk ID. That's the first step. The second step is once you sign in, you're in the Project Fractal, and this is one of the things that is illustrates how generative design in architecture works. So what I'm going to do is simply adjust the different as I'm using the slide bars over here to adjust the different arc width, arc length, and I may come up with different designs by doing this. And you can see the louver, supposed to be louver, is getting longer, taller, or more circular by doing this. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to go ahead and make it like that, and we'll go ahead and decide on how many variations do we have here, then different numbers, and then once we are ready, we can simply select the generate, and it will go through different design options and change the parameters in here in the graph to come up with all the different possibilities for this design. So here it is. Just, you know, we came up with shapes that most of them are meaningless. They're not useful to us. But you know, I may like, for example, this design right here. I can just go ahead and start it and go ahead and transfer that into the Revit geometry in order to use it in my project. So that's the kind of the principle, the basic principle of how Fractal works. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Dell in a moment. I just want you to be aware of some of the resources available to you on the web. There's a couple of YouTube videos about that. You may want to make a note of that. There's this YouTube video here by someone called Lily Smith, and she goes over this. It's the same process as before. You can just watch it at your leisure if you want. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Chris Dell, and let's see if you have any questions.
Okay, Robbie, thanks. I do have a couple of questions here. One comment is bullet point mentions solve geometric problems without any programming experience. How is this when it appears that all the subcomponents of Dynamo are all relating to programming type parameters?
Okay, when we talk about programming, we mean programming languages. The programming language that's mostly used with Dynamo is called Python scripting. None of the examples I gave you in my Dynamo player contain Dynamo Python scripting. So there is the high-level programming language, and there is a low-level programming language. The high-level simply is visual and does not involve any knowledge of programming.
Okay. Next question is, can Dynamo be used in Civil 3D?
Absolutely. Dynamo for Revit comes with Revit, but Dynamo for any other application, such as Navisworks and Civil 3D, you can simply use Dynamo Studio for that. So simply download and use Dynamo Studio. I think you can get a trial version and play with it. I would recommend, though, before you start downloading and using the application, to watch the online videos on how and some of the tutorials on the resources I gave you earlier, dynamobim.org. Start with that website.
Okay, and how long does it take to learn Dynamo?
That's a great question. We don't have, Applied Software doesn't have a live learning class offered at this time for Dynamo, but we do have, we can offer a custom class. So if you are interested, if you or other people in your firm are interested to learn Dynamo, just contact Chris Dell. Her email is shown on the screen right now, and she will be more than happy to get back with you with a syllabus and the time when the class will be offered next.
Okay, and another question, where could I find any Dynamo examples of massing residential homes with classical proportioning, such as Tuscan, Doric, etc.?
Oh, wow. Again, everything starts with Dynamo BIM website. So start with that and start interfacing with the Dynamo community. There's a lot of people from Autodesk who are leading this effort, who are more knowledgeable than me. If you have been to Autodesk University in the past, you may want to log into Autodesk University web portal and search for Dynamo as a keyword and watch some of the resources there. Or you can just contact Applied Software and we'll help you go to the next step. Now, when it comes to specific residential I guess content, I don't know that there is like a whole set of content for Dynamo already out there for you, but I'm sure if you were to post your question on the Dynamo knowledge network, someone will get back with you with some guidance.
All right, in the fractal example, what kind of geometry is created when it is sent to Revit? Is it a mass?
It can be anything. It can be a wall, can be a mass, can be a coordinate system. Really, it depends on how you define it. So if you remember, we started out talking about circles and rectangles. Those are just the wireframe of their geometry. I showed an example of adaptive components using Dynamo script for adaptive components in Revit. Those adaptive components can come in as a single model line, and then they can be turned in anything you want. So you start with a skeleton, and then you can simply convert that to any Revit component.
Oh, can you remind us again, what is the two websites for Dynamo Studio that you mentioned earlier?
Sure, I probably should go back to the slide. I'm not going to be able to. Here we go. Yeah, so just to make a note or take a screen capture of the slide and visit those websites and kind of, you know, there's a lot of material there. It'll take you some time to go over some of the tutorials and and get involved with the Dynamo community out there. But it is always people are very warm and ready to help on these portals.
I have another question. Can you use this for mechanical systems?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dynamo is the tool to access the Revit programming interface, the API. So if something that you're having difficulty with in Revit and you needed this extra edge, then Dynamo is the tool for it. There's no other tool out there that can do what Dynamo can because it has the full range of the Revit API. Now, if there is something that you're doing on a regular basis in your business, you have a project there, and you have something in the project that you have to do over and over again, and repeats on the next project and the next project, then in this case, contact Applied Software, and we have our own development team who can help you write a program that will end up being an add-in in Revit that will take care of that for you. So Dynamo is your stepping stone, if you will, between what you do now in Revit and what you want to end up with in the future as a customized macro inside of Revit. So you know, try it in Dynamo, and then if you have further questions, contact Applied Software.
There are some more questions coming in. In your experience, Revit users use Dynamo on a regular basis?
Well, if those key benefits apply, namely automating repetitive tasks, trying to resolve complex geometry, trying to deal with rule-based design, yes. So if you have those challenges, then yes. If not, then no. Then you don't need Dynamo to use Revit.
And kind of, I guess, along the same lines, is Dynamo becoming an industry standard tool, or is it very niche type? The question was, will it quickly disappear?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Dynamo is, you know, when Dynamo started first time about 3 or 4 years ago, it was like that, but it's no longer that. As of Revit 2017, which is the last year's release of Revit, and 2018, which is currently available, Revit is part and parcel of the Manage menu in Revit. So it comes with Revit free of charge. It is in the Manage menu. It's not an add-in for Revit anymore. It will be there for a long time to come, and I don't see it going anywhere.
Okay, a few more questions. Can you use Dynamo to create custom ribbon panels in Revit?
Yes, you can create anything with Dynamo, but again, when it comes to changing the menu in Revit, you're probably better talking to our development team about it, because they are the experts on the programming side. If it goes beyond the key benefits that I mentioned, then talk to our development team about it.
And kind of, I guess, along those same lines, is this a customized macro within Revit? What happens when you upgrade to the newest Revit? Are there any issues when sharing files?
Yeah, there are some issues. The Dynamo tends to be relevant. The Dynamo graph that you create in Revit usually is to solve an immediate problem for that particular project. As I said before, if you needed something that will upgrade to the future releases of Dynamo and Revit, again, that's not a Dynamo challenge. It's much bigger than Dynamo. You'd have to go to the create basically an add-in for Revit that shows up in the menu that does a specific thing for you in your business. So if you have a single complex issue to solve, Dynamo is the right tool. If the issue repeats on every project or on most projects and most future releases of Revit, then you probably need to talk to us about what's the best way to go to do that using the programming languages of Revit, not just Dynamo.
And then another question is Dynamo mainly used for buildings and not transportation? I guess that goes kind of back to the Civil 3D question.
Yeah, any application is Dynamo would be fit for, because it's completely and it will work with almost any Autodesk application and other third-party applications as well. So whether it's Civil 3D, whether it's Revit, whether it's FormIt, it works with all of these. But again, you know, if you have these types of questions, you may want to contact Applied Software and talk to our civil experts.